board agenda, as Board of Education meeting, Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, 7:00 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Crawford? Here. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Here.
Mrs. Wick?
Here. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, before the adoption of the agenda, item under the superintendent's report, item A, number 2, if we can have that as a separate vote. We'll make that just,
Where do you want to move it to the vote? At the end of the superintendent report? Okay.
yeah, after we do, the items of approval for the handbook, then we'll be an additional separation.
Okay.
So I'll do item 1, and then we'll do
Okay.
2 separate. So we'll do 2 separate voting on those. Okay,
Okay.
motion for adoption of the agenda then.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford? Mr. Ritzenthaler? Mrs. Wick?
Yes. Public participation. Each person who wishes to address the board will be asked to give his or her name and address. Remarks should be limited to 3 minutes in length. If after everyone who wishes to do so has had an opportunity to speak, additional comments can be made up to a total allotted time of 30 minutes. Anyone for public participation? Treasurer's report.
Okay, first we have the May 2020 financial reports. There wasn't too much for May. We're right now concentrating on getting year-end close, and we did have a big report last month. Do have a couple items to note. Catastrophic costs arrived last Friday. This is our special education costs above $32,000 and $26,000 for our category 5 and 6 students. The state changed it up a little bit this year. Normally there was an appropriation that we applied to. This year, what they did with they took of our fair school funding plan, they took what we were allocated for our education, for our special education funding, which in our case was $1.4 million for special education. They withheld 10% of that money. They did this to every district. Whatever your special ed allocation was, they withheld 10%. They put that money into a pot, and then they had every district that wanted to or had, because some districts don't have these costs, apply to the fund to be reimbursed for their catastrophic costs. So this is any cost for category 5 or 6 over $26,000 or over $32,000. So these are the really expensive medically fragile students. So they took $143,847 from us. I filled out the catastrophic costs. We had approved costs of $292,956.23. That's not the entire cost of the student. That's the cost over 26 or 32. So that gives you an idea. We have a very good special ed department, so we tend to have a lot of special ed students that like to come here because we have such a good department. So we have a lot more costs than maybe some other districts. But with the change that ODE did, this meant we only received a payment back of $139,828 for our approved catastrophic costs of $292,000. This means we actually had a loss this year of $4,000 on this from what they withheld as our 10% in special ed funding. We did not know how this was going to work. We didn't find out until last week. ODE had sent down a memo from Aaron Roush how catastrophic costs were going to be done. I was hoping we were going to receive the whole $292,000 back. Unfortunately, we didn't know, and did we not see that back? We lost $4,000. So I was pretty disappointed in how that worked out. It's kind of one of those, here, we're going to give you the money, and then, well, no, we're going to take it back, and then we're going to take a little bit more back. So that was.
So what was the total 190 that was received?
We received $139,828.38 on a cost of almost $300,000. And like I said, they withheld the 10%, which was the $143,828. That was pretty much a disappointment. Yes, so they did ask for comments to school finance about, I think they were asking for comments on a spreadsheet we had to fill out, but I had to send my comments in about how the funding was done, because this really was, and it is quite a bit of work. It takes both myself, my EMIS coordinator, Jill, Jennifer King from Special Ed, her secretary, we spend hours on this, compiling all of the information to send in. So not only is it a lot of work, but we've lost money. Had they just left it alone, just gotten rid of catastrophic costs and left us with our money, we would have been ahead. We would have been all that much less work, plus we wouldn't have lost money. So Brad can tell you I was pretty upset about this last week. Not sure I've calmed down since Friday, but
Wow, blame you.
yeah, it is.
So, I mean, did you guys put something together to respond? Because they're
Yes.
probably not expecting any response.
Right, and but I sent back to Aaron Roush, who's the ODE's finance person, and then I did send him to the school finance, and I'm just getting started on this. And I did put it on the Collaborate, which is my treasurer's website of all of the Wasco treasurers, you know, about this. And there was somebody else that had replied. He was at a smaller, I don't remember what district it was. Actually, I don't think it was a smaller district, but like I said, everybody's different on how many specialized students and what their costs are. In his case, it was like 74,000, but the same thing, they had lost money, you know. So I think it's just, I'm not sure everybody's had a chance, because like I said, this just came out Friday, to really delve into it and see what's happened to them. So, and I feel like there's probably a way I can see this statewide, so more to come later. But while we're on special education costs, we did receive our final Medicaid settlement payment. We bill, it's Ohio Medicaid in Schools program, where we're able to have our OT, PT, any kind of Medicaid reimbursable cost reimbursed through Medicaid. Same thing, we have to fill out all the forms. Our providers have to be Medicaid certified and all that. But they had a set, so then we apply for Medicaid costs, and they do it on an estimate, and we do a cost report, and they determine exactly how much we should have had for that year. And it's always under, so that we're able to receive more money. So we received our settlement, which is actually for fiscal year 20, so this was 2 years ago. On top of what we received in that year, our payment came through. It was $120,494.09. So that's good. It's kind of nice to know, because the Medicaid program is, I'm sure you can imagine, a lot of paperwork and red tape. So to be able to get that money back, that was good. For the entire year, our Medicaid payments were $266,554.91. And that's obviously only on students that are Medicaid eligible. So next we have our minutes. We have the regular meeting on May 24th, and we had 2 special meetings, June 6th and June 14th. Then we have our final fiscal 22 changes to our appropriations, changes to our estimated resources, and our temporary FY23 appropriations. The temporary appropriations, all of this is required by law, but the temporary so that we can set our spending authority as of July 1st, and then you'll approve the final appropriations, the final first draft of the permanent appropriations in September. So I just put these all at your spot. I didn't upload it because it was quite a few pages, 14 pages, for the appropriations resolution report. There will be some few tweaks yet to this, because we still have 2 more days of school left, and we do have 1 more payroll to go, but this is pretty much the way it's going to look for your appropriations. And just to give you an idea, when we talked about doing the budget, for our general fund, our appropriation for the year was the $28 million. And when you look at the very first line for regular instruction out of general fund, personal service salaries, you see that that's $12,004, and then the next line is the benefits, which is everything that goes with that, and that's $8 million. So you see right off the bat that $20 million is just regular instruction of our entire general fund budget. So you see we don't really have a lot of discretionary spending in our budget, and that's just regular instruction. That's not special instruction, which is our special ed teachers, and then vocational, which is we have some career tech items, other instruction, any of the support services that go along with it, the bus drivers and aides, principals, all of that is additional. So you see there isn't a lot of discretionary, but of course that's because that's what schools are, people. So that's to be expected. Our next item is our food service contract. 1 more year with the nutrition group. ODE sets out how food service management companies work. It's a 4-year contract with 1-year renewal. So you do it for 4 years where you do the RFP, and then each year you agree whether you want to do it for another year. We are in a very good position financially with food service, so that's a good thing to know. We don't have a transfer, and we're ending to the positive in our food service. Let me see if I have it handy, where we ended the month at $379,000. So considering we started the year with barely $11,000, that's really, really good. So we'll look to do that for 1 more year with nutrition. And then there's one final year on that before we actually have to go out and do the RFP again and decide if you want to still use the food service management company or try something different. Along with that, lunch, breakfast prices, unfortunately, there's no more free lunches, which weren't free. The federal government was paying for it. So there's no such thing as free lunch. The only changes to the prices were the 5 to 8, and I think it went up by a nickel so that it rounded off so that it change-wise, it made it easier. And they obviously haven't been increased for 2 years because we did have free lunches for 2 years. And the milk price went up, and we did up the adult lunch a little bit. The next one is the transfer of funds for inactive accounts. These are old class funds that left money in when they went with no instructions on what they wanted done with the fund, and by policy, the board is allowed to move those funds to something else. So we have 3 class funds, and then we have some money left in the old newspaper funds. Since the newspaper is not actually printing anymore, we don't need to have that transfer. So what we would like to do is transfer that money into the yearbook fund, give the yearbook a little bit of a cushion to start the year out. And when we move funds like this, it has to go to something that benefits the entire student body because it was raised by the different classes. So going into the yearbook fund is the same. It will benefit the entire student body. So that's what the transfer of funds is. Then we have the public library. We have Elizabeth Rutledge. I don't have the name. They did have somebody that had a current term that had to resign. So she's going to finish the term out, and it'll end December 31st of 2026. And then donations, the middle school Berardi's donated $580. It was a fundraiser that they had done, and then that was the money that went back to Berardi's for the fundraiser. They just donated it back to the middle school. So that's what that donation is. That's all I have for you this week.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval for treasurer's reports, items 1 through 8.
I did have a question. You said that the newspaper wasn't active anymore, actively printing. Did they go digital?
Well, so the teacher that was in charge of the newspaper retired at like the beginning of the year, unexpectedly, and so far nobody's picked up the newspaper. It's an actual class, a newspaper class.
Right. That's why I was wondering.
Right, nobody's picked that back up. But when they do, hopefully, yes, they'll be digital.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a media publications class on the books for next year where we're picking up, but in a digital sense, yeah.
Okay. So,
Second,
Second.
any further discussion? So I have a question with the lunch prices. Since it's been free for the past 2 years, do you think where it's at has caught up to the price increases with everything going on? Food costs and everything, because everything has gone up tremendously.
Right.
So are we shooting ourselves in the foot, just kind of keep
By
it
not
there?
increasing up.
Right.
So it's possible you can't increase your prices very much. It's called the lunch price equity tool that ODE requires. You can't go up by more than 10 cents anyhow.
Okay.
Because it keeps it in, well, the equity is with the free and reduced. So it's a calculator tool that we have to use to make sure they don't go up by too much.
But the short answer is no, it's gonna be
right.
insufficient
Right,
for
well,
our
because I'm
cost.
just like, it's gonna
Yeah.
probably be so
Right.
we shouldn't be surprised
Right.
at the
Right.
end.
But I think we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
We'll keep an eye on it. We did receive, it was almost $49,000 of supply chain assistance for food costs. So that was nice, and it just came in, last month, I believe, I reported on that. So,
Thank you. Roll call?
Mr. Norris,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wick?
Personnel.
Yes. Have to start with our resignations, which is always the unfortunate side of why are these people leaving? Unfortunate for us, but good for them. All of the reasons these individuals are leaving makes sense for them. Trent Hovis, who's a lay coach for us, he actually got a teaching job, so a new teaching job for him in the Shelby area. So with that proximity difference, he will not be coaching for us as on Coach Fox's staff. Second one, resignation of Brian Definet. He intended to go to a vocational setting, from a public school to vocational setting. So he was a business teacher here at Norwalk High School. So that is his plan. Brenna Nickel, who was at Maplehurst, her intent was to get to the Cleveland area, and her husband actually is on the Baldwin Wallace coaching staff for football. So she wanted to get to, and that proximity for her. So makes sense for her, loss for us. And then a person that I know very well that I was at the high school with for a long time, 15 years at Norwalk High, was Tracy Van Busker, who is going to South Central to be an elementary art teacher there. So her daughters are in the school system, and she lives right around the corner from that, so you can't argue in her life and why that makes sense. But she's a fabulous teacher. We have high school staff here that can nod their head because we know what Norwalk High School has from an art department standpoint, and it's strong with her and the colleagues in that area. So from music to arts, we're blessed, and we're going to miss her greatly. Number 2, we have accepting the resignation of Adam Kreischer as league elementary school principal, contingent on him also being then hired as Norwalk High School assistant principal. And then as Joe Centers covered here in his early story, the resignation of Nick Kish in the swap here to as assistant principal, resigning from that position then to be league elementary principal. So I know some of you are wondering like why that came about. It actually came when I was talking with our administrative team, seeing with the move with Mr. Ream leaving to be superintendent at Edison, talked to the principals, and then after I talked to the principals, I talked to our assistant principal, the one in the district, Mr. Kish, and he made it clear he would like to be principal. He made it clear that elementary is his wheelhouse. So that made sense. That was not a move that I pushed upon anybody. It kind of threw me off because I was gauging him of where he wanted to be. And obviously he liked it at Norwalk High School. We had reference to him at our graduation, how many kids liked him and the excitement he brought in the personality he is. So with that said, he said, yes, I would like to be principal. I would like to be elementary. That's his background. That's where he came from. With that discussion, I talked to Mr. Kreischer, and with him going to be our head varsity basketball coach, he has interest now in getting back to where his love was, which was secondary students. He's been at League Elementary for 11 years, I believe. So I'm happy to say with a teacher sitting here in front of us that League is a strong running machine right now. So it's in good order. We have a great staff there. Mr. Kreischer, that team is solid. And Mr. Kish being a new position as principal, that's a great building for him to lead. So he can take all the benefits and great things that have happened with that staff and obviously put his own twist on it. So excited about that for him being elementary where his wheelhouse is, and also excited with Mr. Kreischer coming to high school and what he'll be able to offer and with his skill set with high school kids. So that's the explanation for the masses. So with Tracy Van Busker's resignation, we have a great fill in Sarah Oberly. Sarah Oberly was actually employed by Norwalk, experienced teacher. She was at our middle school for some time, and then she went to Arizona and has been there for some time, and she's wanting to come back to her home area. So we're very fortunate there because you look at certain positions, there aren't a lot of people in the candidate pool that exists. So Art was no different than that. So we are fortunate to have someone that actually we have experience. She's a known quantity. She's good, but she's had experience in Arizona as well. Employment of Hannah Smith. This actually just occurred today. I was with Mr. Moore in a late interview. We offered her the job, and this is actually going to be for our kindergarten position where the resignation was accepted at our prior board meeting. So Hannah Smith is a trucker graduate. She has experience in Cleveland. She has experience in Galleon, and that's where we're bringing her from is teaching at Galleon schools right now. Number 6, the last one is OG. So that's our reading program. We are looking to provide monies for our ESSER funds to support teachers that are going through the program to help with training over the summer. Clearly, if teachers are trained in the summertime, that's better for the school district because we're not having to do subs and coverage during the actual kid time of the school year. So we're looking to have that approved for summer usage as well. Number 7, the final one listed there is local professional development committee. These are the people who look at our professional development plans as we look into teacher licensure. So Lori Griffith, Janet Coe, and Rhonda Ray Snyder are the 3 looking to be approved there. So that completes my personnel reports.
All right, thank you. We have a motion for approval for items under personnel, items 1 through 7. Thank you. A second.
Second.
Any discussion?
These normal steps, just for new people to come in, the 10 and 7, these are,
So 10, our district, if you are over, so for example, I'll look at Sarah Overly. She has 22 years of experience. Our district puts individuals who are beyond 10 at 10. So those individuals are understanding of that. So depending where you're coming from, where that's set. Are there any other questions of other individuals
no,
you
that's
look
the
at?
only thing I was
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
trying
So
to
if
compute.
you're,
Yeah,
if you're
right,
beyond
okay.
10, that's what it is. You'll be
I
at
see.
step 10.
Okay.
Brad, is there any other districts around here that are going with, like, the person had 22 years that started 22?
We do have a handful of districts locally that are doing that because when you look at the candidate pool and Jen Gerber's been interviewing all day today and principals have been doing that, this is the time to get things right, to hire the right people, because to me, people are more important than programs, resources, anything else we can do. But some are having to do that because you're looking at, it's nice to say sometimes you're getting the 22, 23-year-old candidate right out of college with 0 experience with a BA only. The bottom line is those individuals don't exist anymore. So sometimes districts are having to do what you'd say is not maybe professional, but at the same time, I'm willing to pay someone more to have you come to my district. So there is a lot of recruiting going on with districts, and some are saying, if you're landing someone at 10, that's not enough for me to come, because for some, that's a significant loss. If I'm at 22, 23, 27 years, where I'm saying, I want you badly enough that I will be willing to do that. So I'm not going to name schools here, but in our North Point consortium in those counties, there are some that will say, I want the 27-year experienced teacher, I will give you that. So that's something that would have to be looked at by the board where we're going, but this is system-wide. This is not Norwalk, this is across all schools where the candidate pool is not what you think it is. So if you're not satisfied with a hire, what do you do? You know, to me, you hire a great person and you say, we get them a supplemental, we try to get him or her then to go get the licensure they need to go into that field. Because the last thing I want to do, there are people that have licenses that are not good. I don't feel good with that hire. And for me to recommend those people, it's not right of me. So I'd rather have a quality person that's proven, or even someone that has proven themselves elsewhere, that we can say, yeah, we'll do this with the understanding that you are going to pursue this because you have to. It's not just superintendent signing off on an ODE, giving that person supplemental. We have to say, you have to start coursework. So that's another added step. So an individual with a family, sometimes the timing's not right to do that, but you have to take classes and get started. So that may be something we as a board, we as a district have to look at doing. Right now, we've been working pretty good with what we've been able to do thus far. But that is a concern with the hiring practice and looking at employment across all areas, that you may have to do that. You may have to.
Is it what North Point is showing a decline with new out of college hires? I mean,
Exactly,
it's
they're just not
decline.
there. They're just not there. I mean, the only strong pool of candidates, and Mr. Kirschbaum would know this, is the elementary. It's still kind of previous years were flooded in the market in that sense. There are many elementary licensed individuals. So the pre-K3s, the old K8s that exist, there are plenty of those individuals, a lot of quality people that probably don't get looked at because they don't pass the paper screening test. Like you'll get some, and some people, unless they're in front of you, you don't see them. But beyond that, when you look at intervention specialists, some of these elective areas, so like, why do you hire what you hire? Well, yeah, we're not deciding between, when I started, we had maybe 10 individuals that are top quality, and I need to bring it down to 3, and then the second round interview gets it to my number 1. That's just not where we're at right now. So that's concerning. That's concerning to all school districts. That's concerning to anybody who's an employer, is you want quality. What are you willing to do? And the last thing I want to do, and I'm not going to do this again, is recommend people with a license on paper who I'm not comfortable with recommending to you. Like, that's where I'm not for what's on paper. I'd rather have a quality person that's willing to go get what he or she needs. So So to answer your question, sorry, that was a long, say yes.
I just think we should take a look at that. You know, there's some, you want to say free agents? You know, it's just like free agents, they're worth their money. And I think we should look at that, maybe start next year. That if they got 24, 25 years experience and they're top shelf,
Right,
and they won't come here because I'm not coming here at level 10.
right.
I think we should look at that, change that.
And I will speak to some areas as a high school principal, he would know math and science. So some of your high-end math, high-end science, those are the areas that I've been talked to by other superintendents, high school principals, like, those are the areas, if I had to name positions, that they're saying, I will give you all your years because I need that AP teacher, I need a chemistry, physics, because those people just don't happen. There aren't 5 people ready to interview. You're lucky to find one. And so you either go with that person or you're saying, yes, they want to come to Norwalk because people do want to come to this district. We have a lot to offer. But if I'm at 18, 19, a nearby district, and it's going to drop me down 12, 15, 20,000, you still have to make a family, you still have to make a business decision, and a lot of have to say no to it. So.
Then you have the new school going across the street there. I mean, you might have some elementary people that are really up on it, you know.
Right.
I don't know if the other board members feel the same or.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I mean, I want to make sure that we can hire everyone, and afford them, obviously. But yes, I think that you don't want to hire somebody that you don't actually want in front of our kids. So it's no different than any of us are facing when we're interviewing. I mean, the candidate pool has changed in the last 2 years.
Right.
So I get it.
And we still would control the hire.
Right.
If they come in with 22 years experience or whatever, and the other one has 14 guy looks better, you know?
So we are spending a lot of money on different programming that we need to do. But like I said, when things are tough financially and we are getting a crunch, I'd rather have quality people. We invest our money there, and some of these programs that we may have to squeeze and do without because people are in place to make things work. That's where my head comes from with this, which is far different because when you don't have money, you don't have options. And all I'm looking at, if you as a board and Mrs. DuPont say, I need to get BA 0 candidates and that's it. And then, yeah, it makes it pretty easy to know who I'm going to interview. It's 1, 2, or none. It's my options, maybe. And that's even us headhunting because before we put our advertisement out for the world to see and who's coming, that sometimes it's us calling colleges, universities that we know are producing, graduates with certain degrees. So we're calling the universities rather than like, why are we in that position? Schools recruit, that should be natural, and that's not the case now. We're having to do our own headhunting. And it's easy to do headhunting when there's certain positions you want to go for, but at the same time, I can't headhunt an experienced person and say, come here at Norwalk and I'll put you at step 10. It doesn't always work.
Are we getting a lot of college students to come in, when they do the student teacher? Is that what it's called? Student teacher when they're last year of college, and they go to a school and work for the teacher?
So
we get a lot of that?
We've had a handful in our district this year.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, we have one at the high school level, but we're kind of far away from BG or Toledo, from those university ranges to have a large amount of them.
Okay.
Especially with the reduced number of people in the profession, they've stuck close to the university that they're with
Okay.
and coordinate with. But we have a 1 or 2 a year, or 1 every 2 years in the high school anyway.
At the elementary, we get more of the ones that come to shadow us. from
Right,
the
okay,
others.
that's where.
But then when they do
Yeah.
their actual student teaching, it's
Okay.
closer to the university.
Okay.
It was like all the pre-observation hours you have to log before you do the full semester.
It wasn't always
teaching
like that, though,
programs.
was it? Wasn't it kind of spread out
And I first came to
before?
Norwalk, I had
Yeah.
a student teacher at the end of the year.
Okay, that's what I thought. It's just been a decline, so.
And sometimes they allow you to actually stay so I stay at my parents' place and I'm allowed if I live in Milan, if I live in Norwalk and they do, so I can go to Monroeville, Norwalk, and Bellevue. And so it worked well, but if they're campus-based, yeah, it's not necessarily tied to BGSU Fireland, we're in the space that makes sense on the map.
How long do they usually shadow?
I'm sorry.
How long do they shadow you guys?
It varies depending on what year they were in. This year, we had a young man from Firelands to shadow. He was assigned to Mr. Capone, but he was language arts, so he came and spent a few days with me. He spent a few days with Mrs. Bigman. So he was there he had to get 50 hours in. Now, he had discretion as he could do 5 hours for 10 days, or he could do 2 hours here, 2 hours there. The campus left it up to his discretion. And he stayed with his parents in well, I mean, that's where he's from, because he goes to Highlands.
A lot different, Dewey.
Very different.
Yes, it is.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford? Yes. Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes. Superintendent's report.
Yes, item for approval, we have Mr. Caney here, high school handbook. That had several versions. I know they were sent out, so they were corrected. If you have any questions, Mr. Caney is here, he can answer those. Our intent is to, in our July board meeting, to have the remaining Main Street combined elementary, middle school, those will be approved then. Hopefully, when we approve our
Yes.
board policy change as well in July, on July 12th. And so that's all I have for item number 1.
Motion for approval for.
I didn't notice huge changes in it. Is there any huge changes that I'm totally missing? I was saying, it looks pretty,
Yeah.
It's a lot of language stuff from my association too, and update things. So, yeah, standard.
Motion for approval under superintendent report, item 1.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Crawford? Yes. Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes. Superintendent's report, item number 2.
Yes, recommendation, this is a change from the approved calendar in the 22-23 school year, commencement change from June 3, 2023 to May 27, 2023, which would put that date similar to this year on the Saturday prior to Memorial Day weekend. So the line from Mr. King, you're looking at the date, so we know by law, our revised code, seniors are allowed to be out 3 days prior to the rest of the undergraduates. So with that said, the timing would work similar to this year to be done. If you would go to the June 3rd date, you're basically waiting an entire week and a half before those kids, those seniors, those soon-to-be graduates would be walking the stage. So Mr. Kenya did not like that piece from, I guess, being high school principal for a long time. The students, the families have appreciated having that extra time and that long weekend if you have people coming in because the focus is on the kids, it's on the graduates, and that's probably the number one thing. I know if you pull people, you can have varying sides because you can say, well, I'd like to leave, I'd like to get away and enjoy my long Memorial Day weekend, but for those that are graduating, for those families, for those people that are coming in, I think having that additional day and that weekend makes sense to have it on a Saturday night. And if you obviously from this year and the 2 years prior, the nights on Saturday have been a lot of fun, and we've had high praise from the graduates and their families.
I know typically we do a motion, but let's continue the discussion so that way before we actually go to a vote, if everybody's okay with that.
I do have some comments. I had the extreme privilege and honor of standing guard over Doc Soviak when he was returned home from Afghanistan. It was my privilege that his parents entrusted me with their son overnight while he rested in a funeral home while they slept. I've lost friends in combat. I've lost countless soldiers, sailors throughout my history of the Marine Corps and afterwards. I have partaken in 150 funerals at United States Naval Academy and Arlington National Cemetery, full honors funerals for Marine sailors, airmen. Memorial Day weekend is not about convenience for families. Memorial Day weekend is about remembering those that have fallen in defense of our country. Making it about convenience for people sullies the sanctity of Memorial Day weekend. And it also keeps many families from going to Arlington National Cemetery, the Naval Academy, or other cemeteries throughout the country to visit and to remember the ones that have fallen for this country. I've talked to staff at Norwalk. I've talked to staff at St. Paul. Yes, there have been arguments for both sides, but the negative far outweigh the positives of having the graduation ceremony on Memorial Day weekend. I personally will not vote for it to be on Memorial Day weekend because I feel that we need to stop taking away from Memorial Day weekend and add to it and make it more about those that we have lost rather than graduation. That's all I have to say.
If we were to move it up,
Yeah.
when would the seniors' last day be, even though the graduation wouldn't be on June 3rd? When would that have to be? Would they still have 3 days, or would it be,
They'd be out for a full week before they walk the graduation.
is that permitted by law?
Third, which is,
They're allowed to be out of school.
They're
not-
3 days prior to the other 3 grades, the other.
right.
So
Has nothing
freshmen,
to do-
so
okay.
they're 3 days prior,
Okay.
so the issue would be, you're done the week prior.
Okay,
We couldn't go earlier than that because
right.
you don't have the timing of getting, like, even knowing who is gonna actually graduate and who is not. That's in the high school administration as counselors, they're working the last when exams come in, when people are on the bubble, who is going to actually be able to walk and who's not. So that time frame to say we can move it up from there, it couldn't be, it's only gonna be that same
Okay.
time frame or the extension to the week after.
So moving it to 27th, that gives us the 3 days before.
Correct. And that would have appeared initially, Mr. Kane to check in days of actually when kids are done, which put the same scenario that we had this year, that kids are done in time. Naturally, they finish that within that same weekend. St. Paul has been traditionally, because I like the fact that you can say some are, Norwalk, St. Paul, some are Norwalk truckers. We do have a handful of individuals that want to be at both because they're connected to individuals at both schools. So we've had in the past, some of you know that have been on a Sunday where we go 3 o'clock on a Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. St. Paul is graduating at 2 o'clock. I like the fact that we do keep separate days, and we've done that for the last several years now. Traditionally, St. Paul has been on the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. And then with us being Saturday, that's worked well for that part of being separate from what St. Paul is.
So if we had rain on the 27th, we can move ours to the 28th.
So talk to Mr. Kane on that.
The logistics of a rain date are tough. We're talking that our schedule's outside and then possibly inside if we know weather's coming. After rehearsing in the rain and dealing with that and seeing rain happen 2 days in a row, I think we have to have and work out the logistics of having both places possibly ready, with the preference, of course, being outside. But I think the date and the time, keeping what we set at, is more important than having a rain date for the next day, because we observed with this nasty spring we had, it rains 2 days in a row sometimes, and that's not very enjoyable.
Except on graduation night, because all we know is sunny and
No.
75 to 80 every night. But yeah, eventually we will run out of that. But so we talked that we think having the same night is more, because if it would have happened this year, you're going to Sunday and we would have kept it Sunday night. And we're saying to tell families, to tell parents, it's going to be this time frame. So if you know, in general, you can see the weather pattern. If it's going to be a washout, we could move to the gym. So some of you who've seen graduations in the gym commencement for some time, we faced it where you're basically the stage is set and we have seats on the floor and we have the home side pulled out. Clearly, to have this ready to go, to have a stadium professional looking as sharp as what it always does, and then have this gym, we clearly would have to then face toward the truck mural with the video board behind, because we'd be pulling out bleachers from both sides to handle the seating, because we could not do chair seating stages in 2 venues and have that ready to go at the same level. So we would simply pull those bleachers on both sides, face toward the truck mural with the video board behind for similar to what we do on the big board at Whitney.
Was this the first weekend, or was this the first time we did it on this Memorial Day weekend that we were just at? Was this the first one?
No, we've done this for many, many years.
what kind of feedback do you get on that? I mean,
The
so,
feedback's been very similar, and when we pull that is, you know, the adults and the staff, we get less of them because Memorial Day weekend, people like to vacation or have their Memorial Day festivities, but the feedback from our graduates has always been that they already have the weekend, people have it off work, and we get the best attendance when we have it on that weekend versus when we get out of school late, just because they already have the time off. So that's the feedback that we get is we already know grandma, grandpa, aunt, and uncle can make it in town and attend.
I tend to see both sides. Being this was our first year, me and Jeremy's first year in it, I mean, we did get feedback I wasn't expecting that was negative about when, but I also got some positive. You know me, I love the surveys. I mean, to me, this should be about the graduates and not about the staff or about anybody else. If this is the best weekend and the graduates and their families can somehow weigh in on this, great. But at the same time, I also agree that this tends to be a weekend where people leave. This is some of them, their last time with their graduate before they're gone off to college. That's the feedback I received, which was, hey, if we would, this weekend, we would have did our last family trip, but now we have to stay here because graduation's on a Saturday in the middle of the weekend. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with waiting until June 3rd. I don't think that we should really make our decision on St. Paul or anybody else. I mean, if you have that families, I had a graduate in Huron. You can't really compare what everybody else is doing, but.
Well, what's different with St. Paul, they are in Norwalk, so to me, that's critical because the years, I thought about staff that had kids even that were at St. Paul that wanted to be here in like the 2 to 3 o'clock, like I want to avoid that, so yeah, you're right, you're never I've missed nieces and nephews being high school principal, I've missed nieces and nephews
Right.
graduate because you're a high school principal here, so you miss family elsewhere, so that's part of it, we can't always hit our dates perfectly for what our
Right.
family we like it to, but still, it's like St. Paul is critical in how we and work with Martin Linder. That's critical to me.
No, I get it, but I mean, the graduations, I think it's supposed to be special to the graduates, so. I don't know, I tend to want to know how the parents feel. I heard a lot of negative feedback too, and I don't usually get a lot of parent feedback on anything, so. And it was more parent sided. So I tend to think it's about them,
Parents of graduates or other parents?
parents of graduates.
Okay.
So that's what I don't agree. But again, sometimes if you don't hear the positive, you don't know if it's just a couple that are unhappy because they're the only ones talking, or is it overwhelmingly positive? I don't know that answer, but I think it is a little touchy on being on that weekend. I know many schools that don't choose that weekend.
Regardless, when it is, it's still always going to be 8:00 p.m., right? I mean, is that the time that
Well,
we're
that's
gonna-
what we've done last year.
Because I know last year was
Decide any of
7,
that,
but
yeah.
with the sun discussion and that, so, I mean, because that seems to be a positive as far as the evening part.
Temperature wise on that football field, it's hot in the sun.
Right, and I couldn't have said it better than what you said, as far as Memorial Day weekend. We tend to, life gets away from us, and we tend to forget the important things as to why we're here, why we're in the United States of America, how we became land of the free, and it's because of our men and women in uniform. So, thank you, for stating what you stated.
And Jeremy, I'm like, what you're stating is exactly spot on for what that weekend is. I think people are still very respectful, love of country, and the people that I know can do that in conjunction with having their son and daughter graduate on the same
The only
weekend.
issue
So,
that a lot of people have with that is 8:00 on a Saturday night, right in the middle of Memorial Day weekend, they can't leave town. Because Friday they would be leaving, well, Saturday night, they're gonna be busy from 7:00 to 11:00 at graduation ceremony, Sunday. It takes away from the time that they have to travel to these.
Would it change anything if the time was moved up? Like if it
I
was 1,
just-
2 o'clock? I mean,
People like,
It's just a thought.
because they get the time to leave on Friday, they're gonna leave on Friday.
Yeah,
I worry
right.
about
No, you don't want it on the football field.
Yeah, you don't want to be on there.
On a Friday night,
We've discussed Friday night as an option too. We have done that.
You're on Good Friday night, the same weekend. That's why I know there's schools that do the same weekend, there's schools that do, they stay away from that weekend. I don't know what the right answer is, I just tend
I
to want
mean,
to
either way,
ask the families.
I would strongly say that the following weekend, I don't like having seniors out for over a week before they graduate, where they disappear, go away. We did that one time in my time, I don't know if you remember that, Mr. Cooley, but we got lower graduate participation because they already got their jobs or they already went to school or stuff because they.
We actually lost some to boot camp.
So we lost,
Summer shift. We lost that one year with
we lost
three.
a couple kids to boot camp that couldn't stick around for that extra week because they already started their summer. So there's that standpoint that when we're done with school, that's our corresponding weekend. And I think Friday could be an option. I see more issues with, the following weekend, having them out for an entire week before we're having to come back and
So what about
clear that out.
Friday the 26th then? Would that, in the evening? I mean, you think you could pull something like that off?
On a Friday.
Mhm.
Could you move it to Friday, like at 7?
Right, well, I mean, it would still be
No,
evening.
so- but I mean, what I'm saying is that would give the parents an extra hour to take off after graduation if they want to take off.
Oh,
Wait, what did we
Mr.
say?
Centers brings up sports. We have the potential of having those
wow,
Yeah.
on
Was there
Wednesday,
a track
Friday.
meet on Saturday?
yeah,
What's
yeah.
that?
There was a track meet on the Saturday of graduation, wasn't there? And there's also a soccer.
So there will be a track meet on Friday. Oh, no, it's not. Division I is not stated yet on if it's Friday or Saturday.
We had,
But yeah,
Sporting
that's
events
that's
on the weekend.
conflict.
You
of
have
everyone.
Wednesday, Friday, or Thursday, Saturday, and you don't necessarily know that because that's set by the state, because at that time you're getting the regional level. So that's another thing, that you're mid and, I mean, we've had kids down at state track, not our own, that are on the podium that say graduating, they're standing on the podium getting a medal and they have their whole gown and cap on. and be
There would be
recognized
state
like-
track the following Saturday.
Because they're
as well.
missing their
That was one
graduation.
thing We saw too.
So-
We usually get a kid or two at that.
I mean, Mr. Kane and I are gonna be there, so don't think we're gonna be, you can make up any day, Mr. Kane and I never leave. We're gonna have an awesome ceremony for the class of 2023, so I'm not, we're not hard defense of anything. We just know what our kids and our parents have liked and what they have said, and like I said, in respect of what that weekend is. Like I said, I'm patriotic, I come from a family who that's important. I think you can do those two things on the same weekend, but that's all I'm gonna say, because I think we've covered our, what we get, so.
We got them in the past where they had, actually, I think it was baseball regionals or something like that, the same day as graduation, and they had to rush back. But there's nothing to do, I mean, that was planned ahead.
Right. And then with spring, it's with the rain.
Yeah.
Even baseball, like we had this year, baseball gets pushed back, Perkins didn't get to play their game, our game got delayed, and so yeah, it's tough, it's spring, so it's kind of wild, move around dates and make things work.
Yeah, so I mean, it's almost impossible to work graduation around the sporting events. for the spring.
Jeremy, how do you feel about Friday?
I think it gives people a lot more time to leave than it does having it right in the middle of the weekend at Saturday evening.
And that might be regional track, that's the only thing.
I mean, I see
If
your
they
point
stick to
about
Friday,
them not
please.
coming following week. I guess I wouldn't expect that, but I guess like boot camp or something, okay, I see that. I know.
So are we voting on,
There's school at Friday. I mean, there's kids
Under-
in class.
Under
Under
class.
class.
Yeah.
will be-
Everybody, except for seniors.
Correct, right.
You think it'll be hard to do?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
so are we voting on just moving it to the 27th or Friday, or what are we voting on?
So the item on the report would be moving it, because Mr. Kane realized when the calendar was adopted several months ago, it was put there, and then he realized the 3 days shy of underclass would still allow us to get that, and that's when the change was placed there. Because a calendar, some years you want to count the days out, it might not work that way, where you said that would not be an option because your actual class, if we had extended days, if we had Beyond 5, we're making up days. Those are things where, well, what do? Our seniors, they don't have to make up those days, or it's still 3 less, so they wrap around the next week, and then you're pushing out a day, which may be on your calendar, but they need to go another week. So those are all the fun things you have to look at, and some things you control and some things you can't. So.
And typically regional and state and all that happens that weekend usually.
So state is always the first Friday, Saturday in June, and then regionals is always be the week before. And we're traditionally a Wednesday, Friday regional, but this year we were a Thursday, Saturday for the first time. And they don't name those until they have venues locked down during the year. So we don't know those dates usually until fall.
And track was your final, and this year you had baseball, softball, which is the week after. So you look at Edison's success and what they had, they based for the week after track. And that's when they were competing in Akron, where the Rubber Ducks play. So that's the same thing. And always before, track was your capstone of all spring sports. Now you have pushing that out. So if you're timing to state, the truckers will be there and state there. But
What's the word that I need to use? Do we want to discuss this further and put it on next month's
Table it.
table? Thank you. I'm sitting there thinking.
But do you need to have this date set? I don't know, I mean, I really don't.
No, I don't think you have to have it.
I mean, it's on the calendar. We put things out electronically.
Yeah, right.
So we would like to have it, and I guess we will have to get our hard copy because we're planning to send out the colored hard copies to districts again. So that is our plan, so we're gonna include that, so
I
July
guess I
12th
feel
might be
hard.
putting it close.
I would wish we could do Friday personally, because it's kind of the in-between of these two decisions, but if you really don't think that Friday is an option because of either we're still having school or sports, but I don't know how you feel about a Friday night, but that tends to kind of be both people's points.
We would lose probably a dozen track kids. Probably about 6 seniors typically on regionals that night.
Did we lose any this year?
It was Saturday night, so no.
Okay, so
She's asking about
they
Friday.
participated Saturday morning, right, the track meet this year? And they were able to make it to,
So this year it was Saturday morning, but most years it's Wednesday, Friday, but they don't name that till the fall.
Would the seniors still have school on that Friday if we move it to Friday?
No, seniors don't have school on
No,
that
they
Friday.
wouldn't have
Oh, they
school.
wouldn't have school.
All the other grades would still have school
Yeah.
on Friday, so if it was, that's why I wasn't sure if it would be hard for them to have
Well,
it.
no,
Right.
what I meant was moving it up to the 26th.
Right.
no, they're still 3 days out prior to.
Okay.
Younger class. But then you might have some parents too that have younger kids. Say, oh my gosh, I got a graduation, the kids are in school, I gotta pick them up, you know.
Oh, that's why, I mean, the 8 o'clock time would,
The 8 o'clock's perfect.
8 o'clock on Friday or 8 o'clock Saturday.
like, you say, our kids are out at 2:30 and graduation's at 8 o'clock. You know, we left the parade at 7:15 this year. Like, none of those times scare me, like, that's.
It's you getting a rehearsal in that time frame of
Yeah.
completing who's actually gonna
Rehearsal
graduate.
and when does the Hobie have their recognition and we don't have their dates yet, they have a new principal.
Because they landed on a Friday
They
too.
do it.
Well, this year we actually landed on the same Friday, so it would have been tough. We had some kids in the third session that didn't make it back to the start of his rehearsal on a Friday to get ready to roll for a Saturday. So, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of factors in play clearly of things that you do have to look at that.
We rehearsed at all times, 9 AM and this year was 6 PM.
Older, too.
I'll make a motion to, on item number 2 as written. Somebody decide.
I second it.
So we'll go to a vote then. Okay, so, a roll call on, item 2, superintendent's report.
So we're voting as it's written, right?
Correct.
Yes and no, okay.
Correct. Yes. If you want it the way it's written, it'll be yes. If you don't, then vote no. Correct.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford.
Back.
Sorry.
No,
It's alphabetical. It's the way it's done.
Dang it. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't like the idea of kids missing it for any reason. So, I mean, this is supposed to be about them. I don't like, but, I mean, Jeremy, when did you leave?
I missed my graduation, I was in boot camp.
See, yeah, I don't love that.
I didn't mind.
Well, yeah. But listen, I'm thinking too, as a parent, my kids are, gosh, I have a couple that are considering,
No experiment suspended.
I have a son that's considering that,
I'm
and I
not
don't.
telling you how I'm voting, but I'm voting based off of
Ah.
people that voted me to put me in this position.
Right.
So,
Okay, I mean, what I would vote for isn't on here. I would personally change it to Friday if we weren't gonna be losing a bunch of kids. I know. Ah. I guess I'm gonna vote to keep it, then to, I guess I vote yes, if I can't change it to Friday. I don't wanna see kids not go.
Mr. Norris?
No.
Mrs. Wade?
no. So passes, 3-2, or, yeah. 3-2. All right. Oh, goodness, that was like pulling 2,000. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Items for information, e-movie news.
Okay, this year, they had the board meeting, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, really. This year, they had 3 graduation exercises. I'd like to commend everybody from Norwalk, the administrators, counselors, everybody that did show up to support the Hogan graduates. They had 297 students graduate this year. They ended the year total 761 students, which I think is a pretty good increase. There's going to be 2 changes in the curriculum for next year. One is state mandated, and Norwalk, I think, has already done it with the financial planning, not planning, but financial literacy. They're going to be adding that. They're also adding another, which I find interesting as a math teacher. They're adding another Algebra 2 equivalent course that's going to be different than your Algebra 2 because some majors don't require as extensive Algebra 2 fundamentals as others. So they're adding another Algebra 2, what they call equivalent, which I thought was really interesting. Another thing is too, are we looking for anything with science before I make the next announcements?
No.
We're not, okay.
We're solid.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, to go along with what Brad was saying, finding it hard to find science and math teachers, they just can't find them. They're narrowed down. Well, they had one they offered a science job to, and they turned it down. The second one, like Brad said, he wasn't happy with the credentials and so forth. So they are looking for, they have a science teacher that's switching over to math, and now they're looking for, so anybody out there that knows anybody, a retire,
The
rehire,
guy speaking have a little background there, but you might have to give up his current position and
No.
you're on one there, right?
no, this is science. No, the math, they already have covered science over the math, so.
I'll streamline here. I'll say Mr. Zebra. There's my, go talk
Okay.
to Mr. Zebra.
Okay,
He's
there
solid
you go.
in 2 content areas. He was
So-
science and math.
So that will take the rest of my report for them.
Thank you. Any further board discussions, comments? I would like to schedule a final policy, possibly next week, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and we should be done.
You just like having.
I know, I like seeing you guys, yep, I like seeing you guys.
That's okay with me.
So,
And let Allison
let me go back to my. So I'm looking at the 27th, 28th, and 29th. Evening, whatever, 7 o'clock.
I'll let you. What's good for you? Brad?
The first 4, Monday through Thursday, are any of those nights are fine. I'm
So we
actually,
just have yours, I mean, we would, and then just like
So-
personnel.
so some of my
Section.
things have been farmed out. So people personnel that I spoke actually went into Mr. King and Ms. Stewart's hands today. And then there were some special ed pieces that
This
were
should
with
be the
Jennifer
last one.
King. That were with Jennifer King.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
That we can
So
give it on July school board.
we can invite people to the board meetings for special, do we want to have any of those people there?
The high school pupil personnel should be pretty straightforward, but if need be, I would say Mr. King and Ms. Stewart would be a good add, and then Jennifer King for our special ed piece will be a nice
Or even
addition.
just if they can, I don't know if they can call them, but just if they need, if we have any questions or
Any
why, or
feedback.
maybe,
Right.
because we can do that for the policies that currently exist. We can have people input, right?
Right,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't care what day, I want to make sure they have enough time,
right, so maybe not Monday, Tuesday, like a Wednesday,
Yeah.
Thursday,
Okay,
just because if you just handed off some stuff today, I don't want to,
right.
all right.
whatever works,
What lines are all of you? Wednesday or Thursday look good for you, and they look good for you? So let's do one.
Give
Wednesday,
Jeremy a
29th.
break.
We don't
At the end of
actually-
the day,
Can we
during
do
the
Thursday?
day,
Can we do Thursday? Actually, we have meetings on Wednesday now, Thursday.
Thursday the
Is that
30th.
okay?
Thursday,
Yeah,
the
it's
30th at 7 o'clock. Thursday, the 30th at 7 o'clock. Library, I'm assuming? All right.
I do have one request. I sent it on an email, and I'd rather ask you now instead of wait till July. If it's possible to move the August board meeting back 1 week.
Yeah, I was fine.
My daughter planned a family vacation, which she didn't inform me until just about a week ago.
Yeah, that's fine.
If that's okay with you, I mean, if not, so.
What day is it in August right now?
So the
Oh, the
the
9th.
scheduled one is the 9th.
So
you're
we're gonna
looking
do
at
16th.
16th, yeah. Yeah, if we could, please. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Good?
I got no-
Motion for adjournment,
So moved?
second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
1 hour to go. Dang.
Oh, thanks.
Now you can take the.